Kevin, what made the Reinhardt trade so difficult or complex or whatever it might have been? That it was difficult, obviously.
Well, it might take me as long to explain as it took to get it done if I did that. But you know what? Honestly, it was just it's a little bit of the nuance of the CBA in terms of the language. It just had to be worked out. So the framework of the deal is in place, but sometimes these things going through the league office, and that's just was kind of the delay on it. But yeah, I didn't expect it to take quite that long, but it happens.
Lance?
Hi, Kevin. Two questions here. Did Sam ever request a trade? Was there ever any sort of talk of signing him long term? So those are my two.
Yeah, I mean, conversations that I have with players or agents, I think it's probably those types of things are best kept internal. So conversations that I have with Sam directly, I'd probably keep it there. For sure, conversations happened with Newport Sports about where he was in his career, where does he want to be. I'm a big believer in Sam Reinhart as a player and a person. I think he's an excellent hockey player, but the fact of the matter is he wasn't going to be here past this year, and he was entering into a UFA situation. So as we're building this out, you look at these things and you're projecting where are we going to be in a year, 2, 3 years, and you have to make hard decisions, and that's where we were obviously with the Sam decision.
Kevin, as far as being the first-round pick for Sam, first, is that lottery protected?
Yeah, so it's I guess the simplest way is it's next season top 10 protected, and if that was the case, then it would slide unprotected into 23 first round. So either way, it's first round.
As far as you get a pick, you get a prospect. I mean, how badly did you want to get picks versus trying to get an established player or a young prospect or something like that? Yeah,
that's a great question, and it's a philosophical discussion in where we are and where we're heading. So a first round pick is really good value in any trade. Regardless of player, getting someone a first round pick gives you an opportunity to get a player that you're going to be excited about. So we'll start with that, and then it's the timeline. If you trade for a player that is maybe similar player that you're trading out, but the contract is it a year, is it 2 years? Does that make sense? So we looked at everything. There's what would be the best way to get a return of value. So we looked at all that, and I want to make it a really important part in the Sam trade was the prospect we got. We feel really strongly about. Certainly did our homework there. He had a pretty impressive World Juniors, and there's a lot to be excited about, and especially at that position to put in our system.
Kevin, two questions on Sam. First of all, what is the consideration and juggling act with trading with a team in your division? How much of a concern is that, and how much is it not a concern?
You think about it, but to me, this is about the best deal you can get, and you're talking to everybody. I'm not doing my job if I'm not talking to everyone in the league continuously. So clearly, those conversations were going on. And when you're in a situation that it's time to make a deal, you think about that. But to me, it's about value. And if you're getting what you believe is the best value for your organization, then you make that deal.
And then secondly, along the lines of value, you traded a 5-time 20-goal scorer. Didn't get any NHL players in return. How much of that, like you said, was just the decision you had to go back and forth on? How much of it was the contract where here we are in July and maybe it's more of a deal, I don't know, like a deadline deal as opposed to a deal in July?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mike. I think what you weigh in this situation are a couple of things. If you're going to have a player, even an excellent player like Sam, that is heading into a UFA year, you know that in all likelihood, if he's not going to be re-signing with you long term, which we had already gotten to that point where we knew that wasn't going to happen, you are going to likely trade him at some point during the season or the trade deadline. So then you look at all the past deals that have done at the trade deadline, and you do an analysis of that, and what could that look like? What does the return look like? You make sure you understand that, and then you take some risk to say, what if Sam wasn't hurt, or what if Sam was hurt, or what if something happened that season where his value was down? And you just weigh all that together. I mean, look at Jake McCabe this year. You know, unfortunately, he gets that injury and then he's out for the year, and that can happen. So you're weighing all that. Also against, this is a player on your team that's a really good one if you keep him, even if you trade him at some point. And then I guess on the NHL player part, I guess, you know, what I would say to that is, yes, if you trade a player like Sam to another team and you get an NHL player in return, what level is that player? How is he helping your team, not just this upcoming season, but into the future, versus what could a first-round pick and a prospect do for you in the longer term as you build your franchise out? And I've talked to you guys a lot about, we need to build this up. We need to build our pipeline up. We need to get young core pieces that we can build around. I mean, that's critical. And so that's part of the decision-making. So what I'm trying to do, Mike, is just give you all of the things you think about that ultimately lead you to making a decision that we made with Sam.
One of the picks we talked to today said during the interview process with you, you guys made it clear that you wanted to build a good locker room, and you've talked about wanting guys who want to be in Buffalo. What other traits do you want to see in your locker room when it's finalized?
Yeah, I think, John, you're looking for competitive people. Let's start with that, competitive people. And when you're scouting, how do they play and what are their traits, and you're all that, and then you're projecting. But if you have, to me, the ingredients of competitive people that love to be at the rink and they love to challenge each other, and that becomes contagious when you get it inside a locker room. I mean, from my experience as a player, I've seen it, I've lived it, I've seen both sides of it when it's not as good either. We need to create a culture here and a foundation that is strong and that is almost one of those situations where you get up in the morning and you just can't wait to get to the rink. And I love my teammates and I love being here and I'm hungry, and it's so easy to say and it's hard to do. But and I've said this probably since the season ended when I've been talking to you guys, is I see signs of it, and that excites me. The foundation of our organization has to be built the right way, has to be strong, and I think we took huge steps this weekend. I'm really impressed with Jerry Forden, the job he did in his first time as director of amateur scouting, the way he ran the draft. Jason Carmanos was phenomenal. Really appreciate the work these guys have put in, how they challenge each other. I've said before, I love debate. I love a culture of debate and challenging and asking questions, and we did that in our war room, and it was I think we took a big step as an organization this week.
A lot of this weekend was future, building for the future. Coming in a few days is free agency, and that's more short term. How do you look forward to free agency?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get right back to work shortly when I get back upstairs, and it's a busy time. You're thinking about, the free agency is a whole different type of planning. It's short term in some regards. Where do you need some immediate spots in your lineup filled? Where does Rochester looking like? How do you add depth? I mean, that's all part of that we'll start. We've been having these discussions obviously for a while, but really start to drill down on tonight, especially with some of the moves we've made over the last couple of days. But it's coming fast, and then we'll take the next challenge on.
Hey, Kevin, back here. Got it? Hey. Just kind of going off of that, just how active do you anticipate you guys being in free agency coming up?
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting word. I mean, I don't know exactly how to say active. I think we're gonna do the work. We're gonna see where we're at in terms of the players out there. What are the fits we need? What I will say I believe is critically important with our team makeup right now is not boxing young players that are on our roster out of crucial situations and crucial minutes. One of the best ways to learn in this league is by doing it, by experiencing that, being out there at the end of a game, up a goal or down a goal, having that feeling of taking a face-off when the game's on the line. If you're a Casey Middlestad or a Dylan Cousins, that's important. So we want to make sure that we put the right pieces around this young core of players that we have, but you want to make sure they're also getting out there and having the opportunity to grow and learn.
And then obviously this weekend we saw, Rasmus Ristolainen gets traded today, Sam Reinhart. How close were you, if at all, to making a deal with a team for Jack Eichel?
Discussions are going on, and we're having a lot of them on a lot of different players. And in Jack in particular, if people were thinking like, oh, something's going to happen at the draft, we've never looked at any sort of timeline or pressure point to say we have to do something on any player. But I think the reality is when we feel it's the right time, whether we're talking about Jack or someone else that we think is the right thing to do for our franchise and that is going to be the best thing for the Buffalo Sabres, then we'll do it. And we'll be open to it. And I think that's how we've approached all of our players. But I understand you guys need to ask the Jack question, and it's in respect to the jobs you guys have. I get it, but there's continuous discussions that I'm having, and probably will keep having as I go back upstairs.
Kevin, as Mike said, you've got Sam Reinhart as a 5-time 20-goal scorer. You have Rasmus Ristolainen. You probably get a little more for Ristolainen. You got a first and a second-round pick. Is that because it's a defenseman as compared to a forward? Are defensemen more valued, are you finding, as you're having more discussions than maybe forwards are?
Yeah, Paul, that's I think there's a lot that goes into that. So I'm going to just give you my most honest, real-time answer to that would be defensemen are at a premium right now. I think what you saw in the Stanley Cup Finals, the way teams have been built lately, Risto type of player, there's a value to that in the league right now. Clearly, centermen are at a premium, because of mostly in Sam's career more of a winger. That plays into it as well. It's really hard to build your team with the top centermen. So those are all the things that play into it. I think part of it is to just where certain teams are, where is the salary cap. What can they do if they have other contracts to move money? I mean, you saw Philadelphia, we've been having discussions for quite some time before that deal was made, but they also made some deals before to maybe put themselves in a better position to make appropriate offers. So all that plays in. But I think you touched on an important part, just where the league is at different times, and I think right now, clearly just with the way the playoffs were, a defenseman like Rasmus is in demand for sure.
Kevin, everyone understands Sam's contract situation vis-a-vis getting traded. I mean, the bottom line here is the whole hockey world is talking about Jack. He still has 5 years left in his deal. I mean, in your mind, is the relationship between the organization and its captain irretrievably broken? Is there any chance he would be on your club this season?
Yeah, I mean, Jack is he has a contract, like you said. He's a player on our team. I have no sort of, in any way, shape, or form, hard feeling with Jack Eichel. I want to make that very clear. I like Jack. We've over the past year plus that I've been on the job, we've had a lot of different discussions. Some of them maybe not as fun as others. We've gotten to know each other. I've talked to his agents twice today. I mean, there's constant communication, but I understand where he is. But from my standpoint, he is a player on our team and a very good one, very, very good one, and that's how I look at it. So for me, this is just part of my job and what I'm going through, and Jack has what he's going through as a player, and we're both trying to do our jobs.
So he could, if you couldn't make a deal, you'd have no problem still having him on your club.
I would have no problem at all if Jack Eichel is on our team when we start training camp. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. If we are in a position that we believe will help our franchise, not just short term, but for the long term, in building this out, and building around a core and a foundation of critical assets, then we'd be open and looking at it. And if we didn't have that on the table or don't think that makes sense, then we won't do something. But yeah, I have no problem with Jack being here.
Kevin, have you continued talking with the agents for Allmark and McCabe? What's your level of confidence with maybe trying to bring those two guys back if they are your targets for you?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time with Linus's agent over this off season. Had regular conversations. We're going to continue. We're working hard at it. I mean, we've made it very clear to them that we would like to see Linus as our #1 goalie. So we're going to keep working it. We'll see where it gets. I also understand the rights players have, and sometimes they make decisions, but we're going to do everything we can. And we've been open and honest from the beginning with Linus and his agent that we prioritize him. Jake, we've definitely had conversations all along here. I am a big fan of Jake McCabe as a player and a person. We're at a spot here where he I think has gotten close that he said, okay, I think I'm going to see what's out there. Doesn't mean that I get a phone call from his agent that we wouldn't welcome him back, because I really think he was a good hockey player for us.
I know it's best player available, but you got quite a few forwards in this draft. Was that an area of focus just based on need when you're looking at the prospects you have?
Best player projected out over time. You always look at the position, certainly, and where are you, but I really challenged Jerry and the staff to find future Buffalo Sabres from the top of the draft to the bottom of the draft, and why. Like, what's the process that we're going to go through, and how are we going to get there? And they did an amazing job. So, yeah, it's nice to build the pipeline up with forwards that we believe are going to play for us someday, but we didn't go into it saying we want to draft this many or that many. It just, where it fell on our list, and but we're pretty excited. I know everybody says after the draft that they're thrilled with the guys they got, but I can honestly tell you, as this draft was unfolding and we were about to pick, and we're holding our breath a pick or two before because we really believed in the player, whatever round it was, it gives us a good feeling as I sit here. I don't even know what day we are, Saturday, and can tell you it was a good draft for us. We're excited, and now it's our player development and all the things that we need to do to make sure we're putting these players in a position to become Buffalo Sabres.
Thanks, Kevin.
No problem.